It's 49 degrees in Oklahoma City today, and everything about that makes me angry. It is the 29th of April, and I probably shouldn't even say that date out loud because we're gonna release this at a later date, but I don't really even care. I need it to not be 49 degrees today. So, Taylor, you are welcome to cut out that entire little rant that I just gave. Um, I was reflecting on something. I was actually listening to one of the episodes from the past talking about that breakdown on the side of the road and the tire blowing out on my son's car, and I started thinking about another piece of that story that I didn't tell then. So for those of you that haven't listened to that episode yet, we're broken down on the side of the road. My son has blown out a tire and it's just absolutely shredded the tire, and we called the tow truck. They're on their way, but it's going to be at least an hour and a half before they get there. So we walked about a mile up the next to the highway and walked into this restaurant. We walked into the restaurant. We just wanted to get some food. It's been a frustrating day. Everything about that day was just kind of annoying. We're tired. We're frazzled. We're waiting on the tow truck, and put my name on the wait list at the restaurant. And they said it's probably going to be 30 or 45-minute wait. We sat down and we waited for that 30 minutes. Frustrated, but trying to make jokes. I'm trying to lighten the mood, and my 19-year-old is just being a trooper. And we looked at our watches and realized how long it had been, and decided if we're going to get any food before the tow truck gets there, we probably should just go ahead and order it now before we even sit down. So I went up to the front desk and I said, "Can we just order our food right now? That way when we sit down, they'll be able to bring the food right out to us fairly quickly, and we'll make sure and get enough food and be able to walk back to where our car is, and this will be great." She said, "Sure, we can do that." We order our food. As soon as we order it, I hand her my card to pay for it, and as soon as I pay for it, I get a little text message on my phone. And I thought, did the tow truck already get there? What's happening? And I look at my phone and it says that we have been dropped from the wait list at the restaurant. And I looked at her and I said, "This is from you guys. Just paid for the food and it says that we're not on the wait list anymore. Can you put us back on the wait list?" And I'm understandably frustrated because we've been waiting 30 plus minutes to sit down, and all of a sudden we've gotten dropped off the wait list. And she's like, and she's stuttering and stammering, and I looked at her, and the truth is, I looked at her, and I saw in a second that she was visibly afraid. She was visibly afraid. She's stuttering, stammering, nervous, and I'm kind of big and a little bit loud in a public setting. And there's probably 1,000 good reasons why I'm a little bit intimidating. And we're also, she knew what was going on because she'd heard us talking, and she was waiting for it to go wrong. She was scared. She had every reason to expect the worst version of me. And I looked at her and I grinned and I said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to yell at you." And it's like 100 pounds came off her shoulders when I said that. She was fully expecting me to unload on her. She was fully expecting me to flip out. And I watched the fear leave her face. And just for a moment, she started to look like a person again instead of somebody bracing for impact. She was bracing for me to flip out. And I had a moment of realization, and my 19-year-old said the same thing. It wasn't that she was afraid of me, not really. Maybe I am a little scary. I'm kind of giant. I'm kind of outspoken. But let's be real. She was afraid because of everyone before me, or because of a lot of people before me. It's because she'd seen the bad things happen, because she had been in this situation before, and she had seen how people react and how people treat you. So she was bracing for impact. And the reality is, we've built a world where the person taking your order has already armored up before you open your mouth. because they're waiting for you to dismiss them. They're waiting for you to dismantle them. They're waiting for you to misbehave. And it made me think of something that I've said to my kids and I say to myself. There are a lot of studies, and you can find this on the internet, where it talks about that it takes 7 positive statements to counteract 1 negative statement. That's a scary thought. That's a scary thought. It takes 7 positive statements, because those negative statements are so sticky. It's like they have barbs that cling to you. And those positive statements are so slippery, and they're so difficult to hang on to. And we live in a world where the anger gets passed. The impatience gets passed. The weight of every bad thing happening in our world, the weight of a broken down car and a blown out tire and waiting an hour and a half for a tow truck and walking a mile to get dinner and all of the other things gets handed to whoever is standing at the bottom of the hill. And at the end of the day, it's easy to not think about who's at the bottom of the hill, but somebody always is. About a week later, we're waiting in line at a fast food at a restaurant. And we're watching, there were 2 lines at this restaurant, and one of the lines was moving a lot faster than the other one. And this one was we were supposed to be in the fast line because we ordered ahead. And it was just crawling. And I was frustrated. So when we were all done, I got on the app and I just submitted feedback. It wasn't mean. I just said, here's what happened. Not really the best experience that we ever had. Then I get this automated email back from them that makes it even worse. And it just kind of pissed me off. And the next day, I get a voicemail from the restaurant. This lady from the restaurant had called and left a voicemail saying that she wanted to talk to me about our experience. So I called her back. When I call her back, it's a human that I'm talking to. And she's apologizing for all of the things that had gone wrong leading up to this moment. And I had this little glimmer of reminder. And I told her, hey, before we talk about anything else, I want to let you know that I'm not going to yell at you. And you know what happened? The nature of that conversation shifted in a moment. And it went from an apology and a defensive posture on her part to trying to solve the problem on our part. And we had a really pleasant conversation. And she asked a bunch of questions. And at the end of those questions, I got an email on my inbox that had dinner for 2. Come back to the restaurant anytime. Not something she had to do. We just had this reasonable interaction where we treated each other like humans, and it worked out really well. And the shift was, I'm not going to yell at you. But it was just that moment of being human and treating her like a human. And all of a sudden, the outcome changed dramatically. It wasn't a war. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a I win and you lose. It was, let's figure this out. And you know what I really love? I actually really love the idea, the mentality, the thought of let's figure it out. I think that's one of my favorite answers in these days. Let's figure it out. Because let's figure it out indicates that everybody here is willing to compromise in order to get the best outcome. And in a world that's filled with I'm right and you're an idiot, or my way or the highway, let's figure it out feels like a vacation. When I traveled and played music for a living, one of the running jokes is they would send me to the desk, and if there was ever a problem with flights, I was the one that got sent up to get us coupons and dinner and frequent flyer miles and everything else, because I would go up there and just strike up a conversation and just figure it out. And it didn't always work. Sometimes people were terrible. Sometimes people will treat you badly. But more often than not, I'd walk back with something salvaged. And that salvage happened because my goal was to remember that we were all humans. What I got out of it didn't change that. We were all humans. Because this isn't a tactic. What I'm talking about today, this isn't a tactic to get what you want. And if it becomes a tactic to get what you want, guess what? It actually destroys the honesty of what we're talking about. A tactic is what you do to get your way. This is a posture. It's how you carry yourself regardless of what you get back. And it reminds me of this little moment from a few years ago. And it might be the birthplace of this thought and idea. We were in the Atlanta airport. I was with the guys that I travel with. The Atlanta airport is huge and busy and always feels frantic. And we had to run all the way. I had my big 40-pound case, this yellow rolling case that was just an absolute nightmare. And when your arms are as long as mine and your legs are as long as mine, all you do is run yourself a flat tire all the time. You run up on your own shoes, you create problems. It's just kind of a hassle. But I have this 40-pound case that I'm pulling through the airport. And as we were sitting there at our gate, they announced that they had moved our gate, not just a few gates down, but to an entire different terminal. And we didn't have much time to get there. So we're running, 5 of us, through the airport. It's like a bad advertisement for something. And I was at the tail end of it because I had the most gear to carry. And we ran down the escalator. And as we're running down the escalator, the rule is, for those of you that don't know it, stand on the right, walk on the left. It's the way it's supposed to be. So as we're trying to get down the escalator as quick as humanly possible, we're telling everybody on your left, on your left, on your left, on your left. And as we're going down, and this person, after the 4 guys got past, this one person steps out and gets in front of me, and I nearly barrel over them. And the guys get off and they get onto the interterminal tram and they make it off, and I don't make it. And I wanted to say so many not nice things. To say that I was angry is a gross understatement. They left me behind. Here I am. And the funny thing is, I just got myself a coffee because we've already identified that I have a little bit of a coffee habit. So I'd been running. I've got my coffee. Coffee's all over me. I've got my 40 pounds of gear. I'm waiting at the tram. When the tram finally gets there about 4 minutes later, I'm thinking I'm probably going to miss my flight. Get on the tram. Whenever I get out of the tram, I go up the escalator and I walk through the airport, and I look up ahead and there's this flight attendant sitting there smiling. And I wanted to throw my 40 pounds of gear at her. And as soon as I got there, she looks at me and she said, "You must be Brian." And I said, "I am. How did you know?" And she said, "Your friends told me to watch for the very tall man, the very angry, very tall man." And she said, "Don't worry, we're still here. Let's get your stuff." She took my bag, got it all checked in. I walked in and I felt a small breath of relief, but I'm still angry. And I get onto the flight. As I get onto the flight, I sit down in my seat, and the guy next to me is reading the sports pages, and he looks over at me and sees me, coffee all over me, and he reaches into his little bag and he grabs a handful of napkins and he hands me napkins so I can start to clean myself off. And once I kind of clean myself off, I look around for where to put this stuff, and he takes my napkins and he puts them in his little trash bag and he hands me the sports pages. Very small things. The flight attendant, what she did was very small, but it chipped away at that hard exterior that I was building. And when that guy handed me napkins and handed me the sports page and just treated me like a human, it wasn't just a breath, it was a release. And honestly, on a different day, that might have been when I wept. They just treated me like a human. And it wasn't about the napkin, it wasn't about the joke, it wasn't about the newspaper, it wasn't about any of those things. It was about noticing. 30 seconds of noticing. It was 30 seconds of me looking at that girl behind the counter who had just messed up. And I told her, I'm not going to yell at you. It was 30 seconds. It was 10 seconds of telling the person on the other end of the phone, I'm not going to yell at you. It was just those few moments of that flight attendant looking at me and saying, they told me to watch for the very tall, angry man. And it was the 10 seconds of him handing me napkins when I didn't know what to do with them. He's helping. Don't know his name. We didn't exchange phone numbers. All I did was recover. And I say that because I think in that moment, I learned what this does to a person. Because it was done to me when I needed it. And that moment might be part of the reason why I was able to tell them, I'm not going to yell at you. And maybe that was a moment that taught me that I needed to pay that thing forward. Because this is bigger than restaurants. It's bigger than online desks. It's bigger than even big guys running for airplanes. This is for coworkers. This is for friends. This is for employees. This is for bosses. This is for strangers in traffic. This is for the person on the other end of your email that you fired off without thinking. Because the punishment we hand out perpetuates the cycle. Remember what I said about it all rolls downhill? There's always somebody at the bottom. It travels and it lands on the next person and the one after that. And at some point, it probably comes back around. But breaking it multiplies something too. Because when I broke that cycle with that girl that day, when I broke that cycle with that person who called me, that also multiplies. Because in that moment and in every moment that we do something unexpected, it increases the possibility that something unexpected can happen for somebody else. That's the thing. And we don't get to choose whether we're part of the cycle. We are. We do get to choose which direction we push it. And I don't want to be a cheese ball. And I don't want this to be just some moment where we all go, ah. But the reality is this. That hostess is somebody's daughter. That hostess might be someone's wife. It's somebody's person. And it's someone who's human. And my fear is that we are grinding people like that into the dust. One transaction at a time. One painful exchange at a time. It's the lady in traffic. It's the guy in line. It's the frazzled mechanic. It's your coworker. It's your employee. Hell, it might even be your boss. At some point, someone has to break the cycle. Someone has to be unexpected. So in those moments, take a deep breath and remember that 30 seconds can change the cycle. It can change the temperature of the entire day. 4 words, 5 words, 6 words. That's 6 words. I'm not going to yell at you. And then she smiled. Start there. Thanks for being here. See you next week.